This is Radio Free Hillsdale, 101.7 FM. I'm Scott Bertram, and with me is State Senator Mike Shirkey. Sir, how are you?
Good afternoon, Scott. I'm doing fine, and it's nice to be on the radio with you again.
You can find out more at SenatorMikeShirkey.com. Find him on Facebook as well. Just search for Senator Mike Shirkey. Couple of topics I wanted to get with you today on, Senator, that we've discussed previously, and there's some new info. Start with this tentative deal that's in place for school employee pension reform. We talked about this a few weeks ago. What are the details here?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Scott. I think we should start with defining the problem we're trying to solve first, and then we'll talk about the details of the solution. But Michigan has been heading down a train wreck crash course on unfunded liabilities. On many fronts, not just Michigan public school employee retirement system. It's also locals and so forth. So this was the one, though, that is the biggest unfunded liability, now $30 billion. And it puts into jeopardy two things. It puts into jeopardy the pensions of those who are currently teaching and those that are already retired. Not so much that they might lose it, because, quite frankly, it's guaranteed by our Constitution. Mm-hmm. But it puts into jeopardy everything else that might have to happen to accomplish that if the liability continues to grow. So we chose to close the system out, the new hybrid system out, and provide a very attractive defined contribution plan for new educators coming into the system. It doesn't touch current teachers and doesn't touch currently retired educators, but it does affect the future. And we believe it doesn't guarantee that there won't be increase in liability, but it takes most of the risk off the table. And as I said, Scott, I think it provides a retirement plan for new educators coming into the system that's more aligned with current thinking of the 20 and 30-somethings. They want something that's more portable, mm-hmm. and we significantly enhanced the employer, aka taxpayer, match mm-hmm. For that. So it's a pretty attractive program. The naysayers, I scratch my head as to how they come up with some of these arguments, but the biggest argument that they've been able to come up with has been, well, we're going to make it hard to recruit teachers. Uh-huh. And I think the market's going to take care of that.
Right.
I admit to you that new teachers are unfairly underpaid, but that's mostly driven by contract negotiations, not by state government. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not as concerned about that as others are. But this is a much necessary reform. Many legislatures before us have talked about it and mm-hmm. chose to not try to muster the votes to do it.
I want to ask just a couple of specifics on the proposal, because being from Illinois, I've looked at a number of pension reform plans that state has tried to pass through. This Michigan proposal, as far as I can see, it does not mandate a change for anyone, but it would encourage people to go into the 401k style plan by sweetening employer contributions. So you're trying to give them incentives to do things rather than mandating they do things. Is that right?
Yes and no.
Okay.
It does not mandate any current educator to do anything, but it does default to defined contribution plan for new employees, new educators, and they would have to opt out of that default if they wanted to go with a hybrid, partial DC, partial DB kind of plan. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to just make sure that I wasn't misleading you.
Sure. And then to define terms, too, I'm sure people can kind of understand this more in their own personal life. There's the old style kind of defined benefit plan where you know what you're getting down the line. And now we're talking about moving toward a 401k style plan, which is defined contribution. So you know what you are contributing immediately, and what you get later is determined by a number of things, not the least of which what you determined you want to invest in, those things like that. But that, just to get the terms straight, that's what we're talking about, correct?
Right. And to be fair, no educator and no administrator has done anything wrong for us to get into the pickle that we're in.
Sure.
A lot of it had to do with back in the late 90s, the system looked like it was overfunded, and so some funds were redirected from it to other purposes. And another big reason, Scott, is that technology in medicine is causing, when those pension systems were modeled, nobody anticipated people living as long as they're living today.
Right.
And if you take a look at the tables going forward, it's just going to get, it's a good news, bad news kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't, to me, it's not fair to hold taxpayers 100% accountable, for those kinds of nearly potentially undefined liabilities. And so trying to come up with a competitive program that provides an opportunity for people to save for their retirement, yet doesn't put taxpayers at risk for, undefined liabilities is the sweet spot we're trying to hit.
Senator Mike Shirkey with us, representing Branch, Hillsdale, Jackson counties. Scott Bertram with you on Radio Free Hillsdale, 101.7 FM. We've talked previously, and I know how important this fight is to you on opioid addiction. You were working on a number of bills during this cycle, and a few of them have moved forward. What has happened with some of that opioid legislation in the Senate, Senator?
Yeah, there's a long list of legislation, but the two most important bills are Senate Bills 166 and 167, which I believe we will get out of the Senate this week.
Okay.
And then send over to the House. And those are the bills that essentially mandate providers and prescribers to use Michigan's automated prescription system that has been recently substantially updated, so that people can start actually keeping track of either providers who are gaming the system or patients who are gaming the system. And that's the first, in my mind, it's the first step in arresting the growth on this, that is stopping the supply. There's other elements to it that we'll be working on, law enforcement related, for instance, to give them some more teeth to accomplish getting, the first level dealers, those that are on the sidewalks, they're not the ones we're after. It's their bosses who we're after, and they're very creative. And so we're going to have to change some of our laws so that we can give law enforcement more tools to go after them. But I'm excited about this MAPS update, because we'll get that through the Senate this week, and that's the first big step into giving the medical community and the law enforcement community the data they need to start keeping track.
Senator Mike Shirkey with us, senatormikeshirkey.com. Find him on Facebook, too, at Senator Mike Shirkey. I'm Scott Bertram, Radio Free Hillsdale, 101.7 FM. You were in Hillsdale very recently for the unveiling of a new statue in Mrs. Stock's Park. Tell people what that was all about. Well,
Heather Triska, a fantastic artist that we're blessed to have in our community, has been working for, I don't know how long. I should know the answer to that question, but I know it's more than a year, on this fantastic sculpture of Winona, the daughter of Chief Baw Beese. And, we talked a little bit that day about during the unveiling about how important history and art and the coexistence of those two together. Art tends to make history come alive for us. And this is a wonderful example of that. We had a big crowd there in Stocks Park. I bet there were a couple hundred people. And I don't know if you've had a chance to see it yet, Scott, but it's a magnificently done sculpture.
Yeah, I have not seen it yet, but it is on display. Can be viewed during regular park hours. I saw a picture of it. It's not the same thing as being in front of it, of course, but it looked magnificent.
Yeah, no, it's stunning. Actually, the word stunning is the only thing that applies as far as I'm concerned.
Wonderful. State Senator Mike Shirkey. Again, find him online, senatormikeshirkey.com, and Senator Mike Shirkey on Facebook. We always appreciate your time and your insight on these items, Senator. Thank you.
You're welcome, Scott. I always appreciate talking to you, and have a great day, sir.